Well, here we are at the actual premiere of Lightyear, thanks to our friend George Simpson. Hello, George.
Hello, James.
Do you want to just tell us how Nate and I, by the way, hello, Nate.
Hi.
How on earth are Nate and I at the Lightyear premiere?
Well, you asked me.
And you got us tickets very kindly. And here we are.
It's who you know.
On a glorious June evening. And I guess we're nervous, aren't we, Nate?
We are a bit nervous because at the moment we can't actually see anything because we're behind some sort of blacked out fencing.
But we're more nervous
in a queue.
But we're nervous about the movie more than anything else.
Well, this is also true. After the tragedy that was Toy Story 4, we are now preparing to see another Toy Story spin-off, and we're just wondering, what's this going to be?
Yeah.
How's it going to fit in? I rewatched Toy Story 2 yesterday just to prepare myself.
I don't need to watch Toy Story 2 because I've memorised it.
Memorised the whole thing. So yeah, well, who knows what's going to happen when we get through this little turnstile, show off our very, very high-spec tickets. I must say, I don't think I've ever held a piece of card that has filled me with quite so much joy in my life before. It's a flight ticket, James. It's not a cinema ticket. And we're going to go through and we're going to find what we find.
So we're now in our seats and the movie's about to start. Are you excited, Nate?
I'm very excited. E44 is my seat number. You're in E43.
And you've got the extra legroom on the side there, although it's still pretty tight here, isn't it?
It is quite a squish and a squash and a squeeze, but we're making friends. We're chatting to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of excitement in the room.
And crucially, there's been free popcorn.
There has been free popcorn and Prosecco, and I heard you utter the wonderful line when trying to hold Prosecco, popcorn and help other people shuffle down the aisle that you said this is probably why they don't normally give you Prosecco in the cinema.
Yeah, it's encumbering but delicious, reviving, and I don't know, the movie's going to start in a second. It's 7:15, it's already 15 minutes late. I don't know if the magic famous people have arrived yet. I don't know what we're waiting for. But
we are prepared to wait for them. We're not going to build our anticipation or our hopes up too high, but we are going to enjoy the moment.
We are.
We've said how many times we're going to get to come and do something like this.
And we're looking at a gigantic picture of Buzz Lightyear. It's about the size of 2 double-decker buses in the IMAX here in Leicester Square.
That is right. And it's only in cinemas June the 17th, but today is June the 13th, so obviously we're exclusive.
Yeah.
Oh, popcorn parenting exclusives. Buzz Lightyear. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Well, it is the morning after the night before, and we are here. So we're still in London and reflecting on what we saw last night. And why don't we just do some quick gut reactions? In this episode, we're not doing spoilers, so we'll do those on Friday. Nate, do you want to give us your gut reaction, hot take?
It was all right. That's damning with faint praise.
That's already a warning sign, isn't it? It was all right. It wasn't bad.
It wasn't. Yeah, not too bad.
It didn't make me angry,
and I was not. The characters were not manipulated in horrific ways.
Yeah.
The writing was fine.
Yes.
There were some funny bits.
Yeah.
There was like the cat. There's a cat called Socks, who we see from the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. But
actually, I would say he was the standout character in the movie.
I don't know that people are going to go, "Oh, we have to watch that again."
Yeah.
I think people will watch it and go, "Huh, yeah."
That
was apparently the movie that Andy watched when...
Yeah, just explain a bit more about that. So what do we see at the very beginning?
So to explain the concept behind Lightyear is basically to say that in 1995, when the first Toy Story came out, Andy was given, for his birthday, a Buzz Lightyear toy, and that was because Andy's favourite film was a film called Lightyear, and this is the film that Andy watched in 1995.
Assuming they had incredibly good animation technology.
Yeah.
But that's not the biggest problem, really, is it?
So that's the concept behind it is just that you're watching the backstory. A bit like, if you were to watch an episode of Woody's Roundup.
Yeah.
It's this kind of standalone thing.
But it's definitely not a period piece, is it?
It's not a period
There's nothing
piece
retro
at
or
all.
90s about it in any way.
In no way. They could have had a lot of fun with that if you think about it.
Yeah.
If you think with the kind of mid-90s soundtrack to go back to have a load of grungy stuff.
Yeah, bit of Nirvana.
Which you've already had this year with the Batman. Yeah, they played, what was the Something in the Way.
Okay.
Just shot up to the top of the iTunes download charts.
Yeah. Along with
download charts, is that a thing anymore? Spotify or whatever. Yeah.
Along with Kate Bush's song from... yeah, exactly, yeah. From Stranger Things. Yeah.
So they, in fact, thinking about it, we should go to Beta Pixar and say, look, guys, this is what you should have done.
Yeah.
A 95 period piece set, that would have been...
Because that would have made at least mums and dads happy.
And it would have...
Whereas I don't know who this film is making happy other than Pixar, who presumably are going to make quite a lot of money on it. But they're not going to make billions on it, are they?
No, it's not actually that much fun. It's a bit... I read an earlier review which said it was safe.
Okay.
In fact, George, who is, you may hear in the background, is pressing coffee. And because of George, we were able to go to the premiere. But you sent that link to it was like early reviews after the US premiere one, I think, had come out. And he's nodding, listener.
Yeah.
But and now he's coming over. But yeah, so they were saying this is Disney kind of playing it safe with this. And it is kind of safe. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing remarkable about it. It's kind of average Pixar. I think it's probably going to get forgotten. Although I thought that about Cars, and then they made two more because of toys.
I mean, the very final post-credits little thing said, "Oh, there's a sequel coming."
Oh yes,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Just to say, this was a vindication of my insistence that you stay for the credits.
Yeah.
Because
we sat there, even
99%
though a completely full Leicester Square Premier cinema had almost entirely emptied out, and we remained in the Morgan Locke tradition to the very bitter end.
Yeah, and we were vindicated in that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, well, George had seen it before because you'd been on Friday. Was it Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, knew that there was, he knew there were two post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
We stayed for the third.
Neither of which were particularly funny. And I think for me, that for me, from a comedy point of view, was like, there were funny bits, but the post... So think of the post-credits of Toy Story 2 where they do the outtakes.
Oh.
So funny. And I think they did them...
watching by itself.
Yeah, and they did them first on Bug's Life, I think, as well. Which were really funny. The Bug's Life one I really remember is that really awful grasshopper who plays this villainous, I'm going to eat you. And then between takes he's just like, oh, sorry, was that too much? Oh, sorry, I didn't, it's like, oh, no, I can lather up in the face. Let's go again.
And that was part of it. And the concept of having outtakes from an animated movie.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, marker, and then and you think, oh wow, that doesn't happen because it's animation. You don't have outtakes.
Yeah.
And so the very concept of it felt really fun. Whereas with these, it doesn't draw attention to the fact it's an animated film.
Yeah.
And by which it's not in any way distracting. You could, if you wanted to make Star Wars films or any other kind of sci-fi action adventure, you can do that with animation in an amazing way now, which doesn't need to distort things or make things look weird.
Yeah.
Or really play with the animation style like something like Inside Out would have done when they went into kind of 2 dimensions.
Yeah.
Where they kind of get very conceptual. They stuck to a very straight telling of a action hero movie.
Kind of, but and we'll come on to it in a second, I guess. But for me, going back to the jokes, most of the jokes weren't that good. So at the end, the jokes that you held on for were just like, okay.
Yeah.
I'd have given that 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Is that really the funniest version of that joke?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Socks has all the best jokes.
Yeah.
And there are other moments that are funny, but there weren't many laugh out loud moments. And although we were with a premiere audience who were probably a bit disengaged, although possibly for the first time in many of their lives were forbidden from using their phone. So everyone was actually, because you meant to put
old man alert.
you're meant to be in a because who doesn't look at their phone when they're watching a movie? I mean, even I look at my phone when if I went to the cinema, I probably would, even though I'd sometimes turn it off. But I might check the time, for example. But we couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
But there were not many laughs, and 800 people should laugh longer and more and louder than that at a movie that is trying to be funny in places. But yeah, the laughs all came from Socks, and actually, Buzz is capable of being funny because we've seen it in Toy Story 2. Because when we were talking about it afterwards, Toy Story 2, that amazing moment where old Buzz meets new Buzz in terms of like, wow, was I really like this? Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, and he just he presses a button and his helmet kind of flips back. And suddenly he sort of grabs his throat and lies on the ground. He's just like, I don't have time for this. Buzz. So I think Buzz as a try-hard is really funny, but this Buzz is not funny.
Yeah, I suppose in one sense, you take Buzz Lightyear and you have him in his delusion that he is a space ranger.
Yeah,
in the
it's a different joke and it's a funny joke.
But you put him in that world of toys, and you have all sorts of humour that just comes out naturally from putting the square peg in a round hole and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this is Buzz in his home environment. This is what he's designed to do, and I don't know that it necessarily it's that interesting. And my view would be, if this was the film that Andy watched in 1995, I'm not sure that he would have been that desperate to have a Buzz Lightyear action figure.
Because what does this Buzz Lightyear action figure tell him? You should learn to accept help. Because from early on, it's like, what's his major character flaw? What's the lesson he's clearly going to have to learn in this movie is you need to accept help from people that you don't expect. I mean, from anyone, in fact. He thinks he can do everything. Or that he should do everything. And in a way, there's very little... So he makes a mistake early on, which is very costly for a lot of people. There's actually... And he clearly feels guilty about it, but that's not what the movie's about. Nobody says, you don't need to feel guilty. You made a mistake. It's fine. It's all about him accepting help. And it's so obvious that that's the lesson he's going to learn that... it does feel pretty loaded and therefore not that funny. And
not especially sweet either.
No.
So I think we're saying that some of the reviews are out and some sort of said it's Pixar's least heartfelt film or something.
Yeah.
It just sort of felt kind of...
The Telegraph are very sniffy about it, weren't they?
Yeah, crunching through the numbers really to make a kind of a palatable... animation movie, and it's better than that. I think that's unfair.
It's not. It's a perfectly decent, serviceable, watchable movie.
I suppose the thing with it is that it doesn't have the emotion and the heart of sort of the early Pixar stuff that we had, and in the funniness thing, you've got a bunch of characters who are trying to be funny, but it's not really a comedy.
Yeah,
and so it's sort of. Not really anything. In a way
it's kind of I nearly leaned over to you because we've almost never watched a movie together. I don't think we have.
Could be the very first one.
And I nearly leaned over to you to say, "There's your ragtag bunch of underdogs." But considering it was a ragtag bunch of outcast underdogs, it just didn't have that shape to it in particularly the same way.
The Robbie Collin. chief film critic for The Telegraph, says Pixar's dreariest, most spiritually empty film to date. 1 out of 5 stars. And I do think 1 out of 5 is probably harsh because it's not a badly made film, right? It is also, it might be, some dodgy writing in it, but it's also not a betrayal as Toy Story 4.
No.
It's just that it didn't need to be made by Pixar.
Yeah.
It could have been made by, it feels a bit like a kind of fan fiction. Where's the magic? Show me something that
only Pixar can give you.
I couldn't have got from anywhere else. And that's part of the challenge, is it feels a little bit assembled by committee. And maybe that's because you've got to fit it into the canon. It's part of, well, you haven't really got to fit in because it's a standalone film, but you're conscious of using a character that's already out there in the public consciousness, and maybe that reduces your creative capabilities. But I don't know. I think it lacked a magic touch that would make me want to watch it again.
Yeah.
And that would make me delighted to watch it again, as I experienced watching Toy Story 2 again, just to prepare myself for Lightyear. The other day this is absolutely magic. This is a stunningly brilliant and endearing film.
Yeah.
Lightyear is not a stunningly brilliant and endearing film.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's all right, but I'm already thinking, I'm not going home excited that my 14-year-old and 12-year-old are going to watch this movie. There's a particular moment, given their Christian convictions, where they're going to massively roll their eyes. Yes. And it's not really a spoiler, but when a lady says, I just got engaged, because I didn't read any of the pre-press or anything, when the lady says, I'm going to get engaged, I was just like, it's going to be to a woman, isn't it?
Yeah.
There it is. Okay. Yeah. And in a way, it's like these are unbelievers making a movie for an unbelieving world, and this just reflects the reality of the world. I can get over that. That's fine. But actually, as it kind of unfolds, I'm watching it just thinking, my kids are going to not really be excited to watch this. In the same way that when I watched Rogue One, I just thought, Tilly's going to love this. And actually, and this pertains to a moment that you just said. When I watched Rogue One with her, and I think I mentioned this on a podcast before, the bit where it looks like all is lost and the AT-ATs turn up and start mopping up the resistance, and he fires a huge rocket at the head of the AT-AT, and it basically absorbs the blow and then comes back round and starts firing, and an X-Wing comes in and blows it up. My daughter leapt a few feet in the air, punching the air with a visceral moment. And I felt the same, and I would have done the same if I...
And you couldn't have had... there was no moment. There were no gasp moment.
Yeah.
Well, there was one gasp moment, I would say. When we do the spoiler version of this episode, normal service will be resumed. And we'll properly dive into the storytelling of it and the mythology behind it and what it might mean for conversations with your kids. But certainly at this point, to say there weren't enough standout moments that I think would generate like, oh, do you remember when that bit happened?
It felt like there was also no one big moment when all is lost. There were lots of sort of little moments, and in a way there was not. It didn't feel to me like the moment where Buzz clearly has to learn to work as a team or accept help comes relatively early on. There was a line.
It comes early and often.
It comes early, but that's the problem. Is it comes often. There's no one moment where he is absolutely on his knees and broken and has to accept, and that it kind of comes together in a cinematic, satisfying moment. It just feels like you could just sort of chop this up into 20-minute segments and watch it like a series. Because he's sort of having to learn the same lesson again and again, and it's So, you know, and I'm a tally guy, so I have no problem with that. But that's not what a movie is, really, is it?
But we'll dive properly into that when we do the proper episode. For those of you who will watch it, because I'm sure lots of people will end up watching this.
Yeah.
Because it's all right, and it's part.
It's Buzz Lightyear. What's not to like?
Yeah. We'll get into that next time.
Yeah, what's not to like? Here are the things. Well, we've already said what's not to like in the sense of we're just not that thrilled that it's not that thrilling. And the overall message of the movie, which is don't be a tough guy, you know, you need help, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's not a message I've got a problem with. I can't see a transcendent message beyond that.
Yeah.
I don't think Rogue One has one either, you know. So, and that, again, that's not every message needs to be teaching our kids how to live.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just feels like it therefore needs to be a better action movie.
Well, it needs to be a better hero story.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of the words of Welsh songstress Bonnie Tyler.
Oh wow.
When I say I need a hero.
Okay.
I'm holding out for a hero.
Okay.
Because that's the challenge. My challenge is, how was a young boy so overwhelmed by the character of Buzz Lightyear when he went to the cinema to watch this movie that he would usurp Woody the cowboy in this child's imagination, and that the whole Toy Story franchise would have been kicked off. I don't know that. I think it's a stretch to say that Andy would have been so inspired and delighted by this character that he would have wanted nothing else other than to have him for his birthday and to play with him.
Yeah. And I think that's...
Enjoy him forever.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Yes. It's great that we finish on the Westminster Confession. Isn't that right? Or is that John Piper? I can never remember.
That's Westminster.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's probably enough non-spoiler gut reaction.
Yes, we're gearing up for the other episode, though.
Yeah, we're gearing up for the other episode. We'll have that along very soon. But otherwise, cheers, Nate.
Yes, thank you, James. And also, we should say thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
Pleasure. Thank you.
George made all this happen, and we're very pleased. And not only that, he put us up for the night as well afterwards.
And we just had marvellous bacon.
And we just had bacon and eggs.
And coffee.
Yeah. So this man, the true hero so far of the last 24 hours is not Buzz Lightyear. It is our friend George. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Speak to you next time. Cheerio.